Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Always Online Multiplayer Gaming Podcast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things multiplayer related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magicman. As always, it's Friday. It's 1 p.m. Eastern. That means here on twitch.tv/MMOBomb, we're doing the show live. Hope you join us sometime. Hang out and chat. Let us know your opinions as we're going along in the show. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, listening on iTunes, Spotify, heading over to MMOBomb.com and checking out the show there, we very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. Give it a like, a subscribe, turn on those notifications, thumbs up, all that good stuff. But most importantly, give us your weekly bombs and question of the week answers in the comments below on YouTube and on MMOBomb.com. An important part of the show. Couldn't do it without you. Speaking of things or people that I couldn't do this stuff without, we've got Ms. Quinlan Bowers here today talking about games. What's up, Q?
I'm sure you could do it without me.
Nah, never. Never.
I'm sure you could.
Never. How are you? How'd you enjoy that week off?
Week off?
From the show, not having to do a show last week.
Oh, from the show. I was like, wait a minute. No, I was here writing for a week. I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, not all of us went to Vegas.
Yeah, well, clearly it wasn't. Clearly it wasn't worth it because I'm right back here on the show. Also on the line, the noob fridge himself, Mr. Troy Blackburn. What's up, boss?
I was expecting my share of the winnings when you got back.
Oh, cool. Then you owe me $80 if that's going to be your share of the winnings. Yeah, it wasn't bad, actually. I had a great time, obviously. And did some gambling, had some good food, you know, that type of stuff. Caught Penn and Teller. That was an amazing show. Maybe I'll talk about that after the stream or after the show.
Did the emoji sphere stare into your hotel window?
It did not. We kept trying to catch it when it was like doing the Good Morning Sunrise face and everything, and we could not catch it. But we did. We actually walked to it, which was kind of weird and dangerous. There were multiple things that my wife had me do. She was like, let's go down to Fremont Street. And I'm like, okay, no problem. It's 2 miles. Do you want to hop a bus or do you want to walk it? She's like, oh, it's nice out. Let's just walk it. And then we're going through the fucking hood, like halfway between the hotel and Fremont, not the Arts District. There are areas in the Arts District of Vegas that are not the nicest of places. And I'm like, yeah, we're not walking back here at
the people that live in the nice areas of Vegas do not live.
Yeah, they don't live anywhere near Vegas. Yeah, they don't live anywhere near the city or the strip. And then I was convinced she was trying to get us killed walking from Caesar's Palace to the Rio to go see Penn and Teller because there really isn't a footpath there that doesn't lead under a highways underpass. So there was, I'm alive. And I think we lost a total of maybe $300. So it wasn't all that bad. We kept winning on roulette and, funding the rest of the trip. So it was actually very good. You can't complain. But as far as gambling losses, about 300, maybe 400. So I can't complain too bad, I guess. I didn't win $1 million though.
Oh, it could be worse. I don't know if I ever told you this. When I was a kid, and lived in Kingman. Kingman is situated an hour away from Las Vegas, but also an hour away from Laughlin. Like it's the part of Arizona that pops up into Nevada.
Right.
Like right there. So at one point, my parents, in one of their myriad of get-rich schemes, because my dad was that guy, decided to start running to take over the swap meet that was located in Bullhead City, which is right across the river from Laughlin.
Okay.
My job as a 14-year-old was to run a space out there, buying and selling stuff. And we bought so much stuff from people that had come to Laughlin. Either they were moving out west or they were there for a vacation or whatever it was, but they'd stop off in Laughlin, hit the casino, lose everything, end up having to sell their car to the car lot that was there at the time, the Don Laughlin car lot, and then bring the rest of their stuff across the river to us, and we're buying everything from their life for $300 just so they can have a bus ticket back home.
Grief.
Yeah, it was wild. The amount of people that would pop across and just sell. I bought one day for $300. I ended up buying this, massive cedar chest and a grandfather clock and oak tables and china, dolls. Like, it was everything. It was their house.
Holy
I bought their
hell.
house for like $300.
So you, like, Q was fucking GameStop. She was like, best I could do is 300.
Well, I mean, I'm literally like, we did have some buildings.
Or I'll give you
like,
450 in swap meet trade in. Go pick some stuff.
We did have, some buildings where there were people that had actual stores, but I just ran, like a spot out there, right? You walk up and I've got tables surrounding me with stuff on it.
That's nuts.
This is why I don't gamble at all.
Well, I mean, I think there's no better segue to get started with the news. See, that's how you do that, Troy. When you have a really bad segue, you just say it's a good one and go.
Like,
Remember,
gaslight everybody.
Yeah, it's only 10% what you say and 90% how you say it. That's what gets across. Hey, we actually had some bigger news this week, gang. One of them, we kind of put our story up 2 nights ago. It was really, really late night Wednesday when Jason Winter and I were kind of chit-chatting about it in Discord, and I went ahead and covered it. And then it kind of evolved throughout the day in little bits and drips for the rest of the day yesterday. So the piece is up on MMOBomb.com. It's all fully updated with things that happened after the original post for you. But technically, I guess 2 nights ago, our time here in the U.S., we learned of another Guild Wars 3 is totally in development rumor. Now, obviously, this is not the first, and I'm sure it won't be the last. Guild Wars 3 is in development rumor. I listed a few in the piece. They go back as far as 2017, right? In 2019, when Mike O'Brien left, there were insiders telling Kotaku at the time that Mike O'Brien was working on another sequel for Guild Wars. That was in 2019. In 2022, there were rumors that they were working on ArenaNet and NCSoft were working on Guild Wars 3, and that spawned from job postings at the time that specifically referenced an online game working with an established online fantasy IP. So this is not the first or last time. These have been going on for years. But the latest one wasn't so much a rumor in the typical regards, like some insiders told Kotaku under anonymity that Mike O'Brien was working on this, or a vague job post pointing to an online fantasy IP, and ArenaNet really only having one. So you have to make the inference there. This one came from, let's just say, a rather contentious NCSoft investors call. It hasn't been all sunshine and roses on the last few of these things, Troy. And in fact, the last time we did our piece about NCSoft financials, we actually kind of were like, this is weird because they failed to itemize the games. Like in every financial report for a very long time, they had little bar charts for each game. This was the first one where that was kind of obfuscated a little bit. And they did mention particular games and how they were doing. And Guild Wars doing relatively well following the End of Dragons expansion. But it hasn't been all sunshine and roses. And so investors were getting a little chippy with their questions. And it might have slipped out on that call, according to some Korean news outlets, that NCSoft had decided to approve the development of Guild Wars 3 after inspecting in-house development resources, reviewing business feasibility, and that they are looking for that title to strengthen development and business competitiveness in the North American market. Now, that was some of the initial reporting. You can read the rest of it over on MMOBomb.com. But Troy, first off, what's your take on this? Because initially I go, all right, here's another rumor. Although this is technically not really a rumor if NCSoft execs are saying it during a contentious investors call with some not happy investors who are not happy with management. There's always been with the current crowd of management accusations of nepotism and this dude's wife works here and this and that, and the restructuring of NC Soft West, which happened a number of years ago. And, as well as Guild Wars 2 may be doing now, it itself has had its own ups and downs. And although it may be doing well, it is not the most popular thing in NCSoft's lineup when you look at it globally, but it would certainly be in the West, a market you don't want to lose by any stretch of the imagination. So it would just make sense that at least you were tossing around the idea of a Guild Wars 3 for this amount of time, right? Like, none of this should be shocking.
Yeah, I think you're probably, if you're ArenaNet, you're not really doing your job well if you're not always thinking a step ahead and looking at, what could, at least thinking what would Guild Wars 3 look like, at what point would we dive into it. If you're not at least thinking those points, you're probably not steering the ship in the right direction, because you look at Guild Wars 2 and Into Dragons was kind of a big deal for them, but they were in a heck of a slump before that. And, to see the story content stuff that's been coming out, that stuff doesn't bring in the folks the way that a full-blown expansion does. I don't think Secrets of the Obscure got the mainstream media attention that Into Dragons got. I don't think it got accepted quite as the full-blown expansion that End of Dragons was. So I think you should always be looking ahead, and you should always be thinking, what would it take to, what at what point in Guild Wars 2 would we at least look at a Guild Wars 3 if we're not already?
Yeah, and one of the things that they also said in this initial report, Q, was that, Guild Wars 2 was not about to go anywhere. NCSoft still wanted ArenaNet to focus on their expansion plans for the future of Guild Wars 2, and that any potential Guild Wars 3 was still going to be years and years away anyway. So this isn't like, next year Guild Wars 2 fans are going to be asked out as half of their audience or more travels on to the new game. But that's just good business, right? Like, even if you're not in active development of a sequel to your MMO, there's a whiteboard somewhere, right? Where it's like, as Guild Wars 2 launched and you moved to the first expansion and the free-to-play conversion and the next expansion, well, the free-to-play for the base game, you know how it works, and this expansion, like, there is a whiteboard of, if we could do it differently the next time around, this is the things we would do differently or add or do. Or, like, that starts while you're working on number 2, right?
I mean, it is. It's also like one of the things they have to figure, like, okay, so Guild Wars 2 isn't going away anytime soon, but eventually, because of changes in tech and stuff, they're going to have to do something.
Right.
And also at something
Final Fantasy is learning right now with its graphics updates and all that fun stuff.
Right. But there's also at some point, the audience you've got for the game that you're currently putting out updates for is the audience you've got. You're not really going to get
something EverQuest and EverQuest 2 experience right now.
Yeah.
So you're not really going to get more. But when you put out something new that might tick, especially graphics related, right? Because people care a lot about that.
Yeah.
New people coming into a game, like even me, like, I'm willing to play, games that may not look as shiny and new, but I'm not going to go and pick up a game that looks old to start playing new.
Yeah.
Right. It's just not the way it works. So if you want that growth for your company, you're going to at some point make a new game that, can take advantage of the new tech and be prettier and all of that stuff, and maybe put in some of those features that you've decided you're going to try to steal from other genres to put into your thing because, people aren't just interested in what was being done in the current game to join in new anymore. Maybe, make it to where it's one of those games that can be both, on PC and mobile or whatever to add that base. Like, I see it happening at some point just for those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, if you're ArenaNet, and we were talking a little bit about this pre-show, and Baron Vagabond in chat put, I bet ArenaNet is pissed. Yeah, if you're ArenaNet, you probably are pissed. Obviously, this is not the way you want the potential announcement of a sequel to Guild Wars to be announced, right? This is not the way you want it trickled out. And when you go back and look at how it happened, Troy, this was like an exec who is already under pressure by shareholders because NCSoft isn't as profitable as it was X years ago. NCSoft is like a very wavy company when you look at their lines, right? They have these like growth spurts and are making a bunch of money, and then it goes back down. And right now they're in a down, so they're a little under pressure. Executives that maybe the shareholders don't feel are being as transparent as they have in the past and as they should be with them. And this really felt like an exec under pressure in the moment, wanted to answer a question with a splash, and just kind of was like, Guild Wars 3, like,
yeah, probably wasn't really supposed to talk about it, but like you said, he was like, I really need to make an impression here. Guild Wars 3, here it is.
Yeah, but he does, and Baron Vagabond brings up a good point in chat too. This stuff has repercussions, right? You can go and do damage control, and NCSoft did try to. We'll get to that in a second here on how they tried to reframe this after the fact. But that as Baron points out, that could cause very real harm or have implications today, saying something like that on an investor call, because now maybe you're not as apt to put that $50 into the gem store to buy some cosmetics for your game that you plan on playing for the next couple of years, because it seems like the company's probably doing something with Guild Wars 3. That's what they said on that call. It has very real day-to-day implications. Is it going to be massive? I don't think so, but it certainly could impact things. We did reach out to both ArenaNet and NCSoft. We got a reply back from the NCSoft team for a comment on this, or from the ArenaNet team, on this. They said, as an active game studio, we are always doing internal exploratory work for possible future titles we'd want to create. However, we have nothing to confirm right now. The team's focus is on Guild Wars 2 development, including the game's next expansion, which we're excited to talk about soon. So kind of the expected PR. We don't comment on rumors. We're not denying it, though. And the way that sentence leads off, Q, is exactly what we were just talking about. Like, yeah, you would expect the company to be doing certain things in the background, looking at a potential sequel, even if one had not ever been approved yet. But it's not a denial.
No,
I mean,
definitely
but
not
why
a
would
denial.
they deny that they're looking at the potential of doing it? Because of course they're looking at the potential of doing it.
Yeah.
They just haven't made a decision. Maybe. I mean, they may have totally
Maybe.
but there's a possibility that they've been looking at it, and they could have been looking at it this whole time from when the rumors first started, and they just haven't freaking made up their minds. Like,
Where there's smoke, there's usually fire somewhere, even if it's just a little fire.
Yeah, and also, like, even if it wasn't true, you can't really come out and say that's not true when it was your company's CEO that spilled the beans, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, wait a minute. So your CEO doesn't know what's going on then? Is that what's the deal here?
game companies really need to quit letting their CEOs talk. Because we've had these kinds of problems before.
Yeah.
They just really need to quit letting people who are apparently under that much stress talk.
Yeah, there was a further update a little later from Korea's Business Post, where they they issued a follow-up statement after that financial call, where Guild Wars 3 was mentioned, where they tried to reframe what was said by saying that the MMORPG is in the review stage and the start of development has not been finalized. So to kind of at least be like, yeah, it's not in development, but it's, kind of, sort of something we're talking about. The reframe totally doesn't matter. Like, the distinction to your average consumer about when development starts on a game versus when it was conceptualized and is looking for that is like minutia that your average consumer does. We might care about it, right, Troy? But nobody else, like buying a game off a store shelf, cares about the differences between concept and approval phases and actual development. That's all just part of developing a game to your average consumer. So to me, the minutia to try and clean that up really doesn't matter.
No, not, and it won't matter to your audience either. Either it's in development or it's not. And if you're looking at it, thinking about it in the audience's eyes, it's going to be in development.
It's interesting. Do you want a Guild Wars 3? Be it a Guild Wars 2 fan? Are you ready, like, let's say, I don't know, a year, 2 years from now? Is that, one more expansion for Guild Wars 2 and then another year goes by? Is that kind of appropriate in your mind, thinking, yeah, that seems to be about right to go ahead and give Guild Wars 2 the old send-off and push everything to 3? Not saying that Guild Wars 2 would die and be taken offline, but would obviously have a player base drop.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're making the big push, and they're not even doing it in expansions anymore, where they're giving all the classes, access to all the weapons and things like that. They're just doing those in just like regular updates now. So it seems like they're pushing towards, or not really pushing towards, but kind of making their way towards just naturally, maybe the end of the Guild Wars 2 cycle. Anyway, they're done with the Dragon Saga. They've moved on.
They
to
have said
other
they are working on
storytelling.
expansions and are planning a reveal on the next one very soon.
Yeah, but I think story-wise and I think systems-wise, they're probably naturally, slowly coming to the end of Guild Wars 2's cycle. And I think Guild Wars 3, I think Guild Wars 2 did well enough that it definitely deserves a third iteration. And I think that it will get one. And I think that it'll be a good thing for the game, especially if they're looking at something like Unreal Engine 3 or Unreal Engine 3. Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah. Total baller move.
It'll be really great for the game if they go Unreal Engine 3, that unoptimized piece of shit.
Total
where 3 came
baller
from,
move for
Guild
ArenaNet.
Wars 3.
That's how they're going to save
Guild
money.
Wars 3, Unreal Engine 3.
Yeah, that's how they're going to save some money on that development. They're moving it to UE3. Q, feel right to you, 2-3 years down the road after an expansion and some time for Guild Wars 2, that Guild Wars 3 starts getting its, betas and hype trains going?
I mean, again, for me, I think it comes down to them trying to keep pace with the tech and what people want to visually see from games. And I'm sorry if you can hear that.
It wasn't a cat, so it didn't throw me off this time.
No, it's not a cat. It's the holiday weekend, so the kid is home. Anyway, but yeah, I think keeping up with the tech and also keeping up like with the changing tastes of gamers, that it just makes sense that in a year or two they would want to do something else. I don't know if it's like, oh, here's the replacement, or if it's more of like, we'll keep this around and kind of keep updating it and also do this, because we got people in here spending money. So
yeah, and they do
continue to get them to spend money.
Yeah, and they still have Guild Wars 1 kicking. Right? And one of the things that I think has helped that, Troy, is that, they're both, kind of in the same category of games, right? PC online, multiplayer, role-playing type games. I really wouldn't call the original Guild Wars MMORPG in the traditional sense. It's more of kind of like instance-based adventuring with smaller groups, but again, minutia. But because the two titles are so maybe in the same space but drastically different, both are still here. Who's to say that ArenaNet couldn't go with Guild Wars 3 in a very different way again? And now you have 3 titles that, they all have the Guild Wars name. They all share commonalities in universe and races and things like that. But they feel like 3 distinctly different games. There are plenty of Guild Wars 2 players that still enjoy Guild Wars 1. It hasn't replaced it for them. Maybe they can. I think it's a little harder based on what Guild Wars 2 is, very traditional MMORPG.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that ArenaNet couldn't do it.
They would almost have to go back to like a Guild Wars 1 format where it's more multiplayer than MMO to really set a difference between 2 and 3, to keep 2 going like as a traditional MMO. It'd be hard to make another traditional MMO and really have Guild Wars 2 keep a substantial audience.
In other big news this week, the other big piece was the Embracer Group Totally Not a Fire Sale continues. And Borderlands creator and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands creator Gearbox, CEO'd by the old Randy Pitchford over there, has been sold to Take-Two for approximately 460 million. Now, we talked about this rumor a number of weeks ago, and we kind of all thought this made sense, right? Because Take-Two already had the publishing rights for Borderlands, so now they own the development rights too. And it seemed to make sense for both companies. Seemed to be good for Gearbox, right? Embracer's a bit of a kind of an absent parent feeling right now, and maybe having Take-Two in there. Well, I mean, their stock's kind of suffering because it was kind of leaked that GTA 6 might be delayed a bit. Shocker, right? Like, who didn't see that one coming? Anyway, 460 million. It's all in newly issued stock. So there's a few considerations that I just want to put out here for people. There are some sites reporting that this is Embracer Group selling the company for less than half of what they originally paid for it. Under the most casual, peripheral vision look at the papers, okay, I see where they're coming from, right? It was estimated that Embracer had bought Gearbox for like 1.3 billion, and now they're selling it for 460 million. That 1.3 billion was contingent on a number of sales and revenue factors for Gearbox over the following 6 years after that initial buyout. Whether or not they met those targets to achieve the full 1.3 billion initial price tag or not, we don't know. We're not privy to a lot of the numbers that we would need to say, okay, first off, they didn't make it 6 years. Right? The sale was in 2019 and they're being sold in 2014. So we're already guaranteed to be less than that 1.3 billion in some fashion. And then if the sales marks weren't made or weren't made by the boundaries they needed to, that sales price starts to get knocked down a little bit. Then you need to take into account, and I know this one takes future time, so you don't have to take it into account today. Since the 460 million sale price is in newly issued stock, if Take-Two's stock prices rise 6 months, a year and a half, 2 months, or 2 years from now, and the important part, Embracer Group is still holding that stock, i.e. Embracer stock Embracer Group is still here, then the sale price of Gearbox will have valued them extra money. So they won't just have 460. Of course, the opposite could happen, right? Take-Two stock goes down after the deal, and now you sold the company for 300 million worth of stock that you're holding. Yes, that can happen too, but this one's really in flux. The splashy headline saying that they sold it for like half of what they bought it for, that's a really cursory examination of what happened here. I think this move makes sense. This does not include, however, Gearbox, what is it? Gearbox West? Gearbox Publishing San Francisco. That's the division in charge of the Remnant series, Hyperlight Breaker, and Embracer is also keeping Cryptic Studios. That's Neverwinter, Star Trek Online, although we've already covered a lot of that. Most of that is in the process of transferring to Deka right now. So, yeah, that was pretty big news to wake up to, Troy. Does the move make sense for you?
I think it does. I think with you already having the publishing rights, it shows that you have interest in the games that Gearbox produces and the games that you've acquired in this transaction anyway. And I think that, maybe now there's a little more interest in putting out some more Gearbox titles and really pushing some more Gearbox titles. And they've been relatively quiet as of recent. You don't hear
got
Gearbox
the movie,
in the headlines
right?
as
Like
much
that's
as
one of the
used to.
big things they've got going.
Yeah,
soon here is the Borderlands
and then
movie.
Tiny, like Chat's bringing up, Tiny Tina's didn't. It was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it, but it didn't really explode and be anywhere near what like Borderlands was, which I think maybe they were obviously hoping that it would. So. It'd be nice to see some of the old school Gearbox come back out. Another Borderlands game maybe, or something new, interesting, and exciting coming out of them.
Q is a update to this story, which I put on the story today. We covered this yesterday, and I put on today. Q and I were laughing this morning at various statements made by the CEO of Embracer, who was saying, hey, with the sale of Embracer, we've basically completed the restructuring stuff that we had wanted to go through. So we're done there. To which investors on the call asked, okay, are you going to start acquiring companies again? And Embracer was like, yeah, it is way too early to talk about acquiring more studios.
Like, we just got rid of everything. Like, so let's just buy and destroy more companies in the process just for the fun of it.
Well, that's the only thing they know how to do, though.
Yeah, obviously, Borderlands 4 is either in development or very near to being in development. And that was one of the things on this update call, too, that was important, right? Embracer was like, I jokingly referred to it as a fire sale, but there is something to be considered with that $2 billion deal falling through, which honestly, I'm just going to say, I feel like all that would have done if they had gotten that money is kind of just delayed what is happening with Embracer right now. I'm not confident that had they gotten that $2 billion Saudi deal, that everything would be fine. I think this same stuff would be happening. It just might have been delayed a little bit.
Well, they went ham buying stuff, right? Because it wasn't just the games industry. It was also like Dark Horse Comics and
and
like
the Tolkien Enterprise.
All over the place. So and it was just so much, so fast. And I really don't understand what they were thinking there, but
yeah, and when you think like, oh my God,
Asmodee too,
yeah,
which is the largest board game freaking publisher in the world.
When you look at it, you're like, oh my God, you got rid of Gearbox, right? Like, okay, I can understand maybe getting rid of this and this and this, but if you're trying to make money, you got to understand though, and they pointed this out, CEO pointed this out on the call, these are all cash flow negative businesses right now, right? That they've funneled off. Not to say that like Gearbox is in trouble or anything. This is a natural kind of ebb and flow of being a game developer and why scheduling and scoping of projects is so important for them. They don't have a big marquee title on the block right now that's just selling gangbusters. Are they still getting some Borderlands and Tiny Tina cash and some things from other? Yeah, of course. That money still trickles in a little bit. But you are well past your big sales of influx of revenue, and you're in development of something else. That's a spend. You're in a kind of a cash flow negative situation when it comes to dollars in, dollars out. And that Embracer just isn't sustainable for Embracer right now. So they're kind of shifting towards keeping their more cash flow generative businesses and moving the other ones out because they can't afford to weather that storm right now. Yeah. Randy Pitchford's still going to stay in charge, though.
Yeah, unfortunately. But if anything, I think it shows it's good news for like fans of Star Trek Online and things like that they kept them, because I think it shows that they are producing income and making money. And I think if
flip side, you can say that it indicates
they
don't intend to sink any money into them.
Yeah, true.
So I don't know. Maybe that's a glass half full, glass half empty type of thing. Take your pick. Let's talk about some upcoming games because we got a couple new game announcements this week, and it was like the Troy Blackburn week of awesomeness as far as games being talked about. So
it was a good week.
As far as somebody who likes games like Overwatch, but isn't all that keen on Overwatch, who loved Marvel Heroes, but that ain't a thing anymore.
Yep.
Marvel Rivals is on the way, and I'll let Troy tell you where he's concerned about this one a little bit, but just to paint the picture, Marvel Rivals is a third-person 6v6 team shooter, so tell me that's not taking square aim at Overwatch as you watch this trailer, by the way. And it's in development by NetEase. Parts of the team include well-known developers from well-known shooters like Call of Duty and Battlefield. They're building feature characters from all across the Marvel universe, including the multiverse, and you'll fight on ever-changing battlefields with destructible environments. What are you thinking, Troy? I see you watching the damn trailer again. I see you watching the trailer again.
You have to watch it. It's freaking the heroes of the Marvel universe, and it looks like it's going to be, very Overwatchy gameplay. I know some people that have seen the trailer weren't all that impressed with the gameplay, but it looks very Overwatch to me as somebody who doesn't really play Overwatch and just kind of watches Overwatch.
Same. I like cursory examination. I thought they just dumped Marvel characters into an Overwatch level. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, even the art style looks very Overwatch, doesn't it? Like, but yeah, it's a Marvel game. Here's the problem though. Here's the situation. It's a NetEase developed game, which could mean heavy monetization issues. Which could mean, sort of developed for mobile and ported into PC. It could mean a lot of things that we just don't know right now, that we're just going to have to wait and see. So, day one, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this and what the cash shop looks like in the game for sure.
Always have to worry about that with NetEase. Although, Q, if you're going to be an Overwatch competitor, now is the best time, I think, to be an Overwatch competitor. Yes, they're getting Venture a new hero in the game. You can currently trial that this weekend before the release in the next season. But things not going too hot for Overwatch in the world of Blizzard. Bloomberg reporting that basically every type of PvE content that you would have hoped to have got in Overwatch 2 at some point, even after they scaled it back to the smaller, like 3 things that they released previously. Yeah, that's all been canceled now. So even those like small 3 missions that you were getting that were monetized and apparently didn't sell well, I know you might be stunned by that news.
I was about to say that you are getting is the wrong phrasing.
Yeah.
For those 3 missions.
I absolutely love
missions that you're paying to get.
I absolutely love the way Matthew ended this piece, by the way. I'll read his last sentence or two here in full in just a second. But this has also had an unfortunate impact on the actual employees that don't get to make these global type decisions at Blizzard, as they are not getting their bonuses that they usually get from performance because the performance ain't great. And Blizz kind of tied the bonuses, did some changes to the bonuses to make them tied to specific franchises rather than, like in years past, the company's overall performance. And so the Overwatch team members got no profit sharing bonuses due to the way the game is performing as well. Matthew's last sentence or two here is great. What changes going forward, as far as we know right now, is that Overwatch 2 will make all heroes accessible without the need for a paid battle pass come next season in Season 10 in mid-April. So basically, Overwatch 1 now. We've come full circle, and only because Blizzard ain't doing so well financially. So yeah, really, if you look at where we're going to be when Season 10 launches and all heroes are free and the monetization is cosmetics and there's no PvP, the only difference from Overwatch 1 and 2 at this point is 6v6 and 5v5. Like is that it?
And it's a shame too, because they spent all that time like in the background, right, creating the Overwatch universe, and they really could have made their players happy if they gave them the PvE story content that they've been asking for.
Yeah, which was the number one reason for Overwatch 2 to exist.
Yeah,
they were told that's the reason their game is getting redone, is because PvE content.
People want to know more about those characters, because I mean, if anything, I give Blizzard credit for creating really interesting characters that you get invested in, but you got to give them some material to get invested with.
Yeah.
And doing it outside the game was kind of a cool idea, but not really the way to go. So yeah, it's their fault in this case. I mean, not the devs' fault. The devs were just doing what they were told.
Yeah.
It's the same problem the movie industry has. When executives start dictating how creative shit should be done, they're gonna fuck it up.
I mean, it's a good window for NetEase to kind of slip in, and some other Overwatch competitors to kind of slip into. If you just do things right, you keep it fair, you keep it from feeling gross monetization wise, like you got a good window. I wouldn't have wanted to try and come into this space in the late Overwatch 1 days, but right now, I think there's a prime opportunity for some competition there.
And there was a lot of online excitement for this too. Like this was
Yeah.
everywhere when it got announced. So
Yep.
there are some folks who are, A, Marvel fans who would be into anything Marvel, and B, fans who are looking for an alternative to Overwatch they can get into.
Also announced this week, another Troy special. Troy, what the hell is this? So all I got is it's a 1v1 tactics game called Hexadome Aristia Showdown. And I'll tell you what, I'm absolutely for it as far as what I've seen so far. I'm a big fan of tactic games just like you. I didn't get into Rogue Atlas as much as you did. That was your Atlas... What is it?
Atlas Reactor and then
Atlas
Atlas
Reactor,
Rogues.
yeah, and then Atlas Rogues.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked those, but I wasn't into them as much as you are. This looks right in that alley, though. What is this?
Yeah, this is a 1v1 turn-based skirmish game, and it is a digital implementation of a tabletop board game that does exist, which instantly attracted me. I was like, well, I absolutely love 1v1 skirmish games on tabletop. And this is turn-based, whereas Atlas Reactor was, those simultaneous turns,
Right.
where you were making your decisions all at the same time, then everything would happen based on a set of criteria on what goes first. This is actual turn-based 1v1 skirmish combat where you're picking a team, hitting the board, and then you're doing things like trying to impress the crowd to get better results for your team. And so it's kind of like it's kind of got the game show setting, and it's kind of got the retro futuristic vibe to it, and it gave off vibes of Atlas Reactor as far as like the characters and sort of the sense of humor they were going for, and that really attracted me to it. And then you just get to looking at it, and the characters looked fairly interesting. They're all quite humanoid. The panda man with the man face, but the panda body is kind of weird. But other than that, they're all relatively humanoid. So it'd be interesting to see, how differently the characters play. I haven't actually played the tabletop version of this, so I don't know, how different the characters are and what the powers are and kind of how the game plays. But this is one that I am definitely going to be checking out because this has me written all over it.
Yeah, I've never played the tabletop version of it either. I am also into 1v1 skirmish games, my tabletop games. My favorite probably being Star Wars X-Wing, right? Absolutely love me some space dog fighting. So I am definitely interested in this one as well to see how it fares digitally. And honestly, I have never played the tabletop game. I might now go seek out a little kit or two, Troy, just to give it a whirl and see what it's like. Skirmish with the kids.
I've been thinking about it. I own so many skirmish games. I own Hero Escape. I own Mythic Battles. I own Super Fantasy Brawl.
Same
Do
here.
I really need another one right now?
Right? Literally, the X-Wing stuff is in those interlockable workbench bucket things, that you could dolly and wheel. In my dining room, there's 4 of them stacked up. That's just one game. That's ridiculous. So you and I will definitely have to skirmish. I know you're gonna be doing a first look early next week for Predecessor, a new MOBA, the Rising from the Ashes of Paragon that went into free-to-play early access yesterday. But when we get access to this, we'll do a duo first look, and we'll skirmish against them. Q, any opinions on this one? I know this one isn't your kind of thing.
I've just been sitting here watching the trailer run while you guys were talking about it, going, man, that the one in red really makes me think of something, and I finally realized that she's giving Spider-Gwen vibes.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Like that's my thought on it. That right there.
There's your thought. Hey, what I think is, this is not a lot of news here, but it is an upcoming collaboration that I think is probably the most logical collaboration I've ever seen, given that I've seen some totally illogical collaborations between games throughout the years. Rising.
So you agree with me on this?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like this one, as soon as I saw it, I was like, how has this not already happened? Rising is going to be collaborating with Konami and putting Castlevania's Simon Belmont in Rising. And guess what? Simon's trying to kill the old vampires. That's you. So you're going to have to get rid of Simon. And there's a bunch of cosmetics and stuff. There's a separate DLC package for extra stuff, theming your castle with Castlevania type stuff. And that's a premium DLC. But as far as the free update, you can go and you can fight Simon. You can get his whip. and new combat abilities that go with it, so you can have yourself vampire killer. This is just tremendous. This is just tremendous. This is coming. Whoop, that's not sized quite right. Whoop, there we go. This is coming when in April, I think. April something. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I think it's April 8th-ish. So yeah.
And it's the most that Konami has done with Castlevania in a long time.
Oh my God, that's so sad and true. That breaks my heart. All right, so now, Q, I'll give you one that I know you want to talk about. Dawntrail has an official release date. What's going on in the world of Final Fantasy XIV?
The early access is 2 days before my birthday.
Ooh, that's cool.
So happy birthday to me, I guess.
Yeah. You'd be waiting in birthday queues. That's awesome.
Right? Okay, so yeah, it's they announced the actual date. We were expecting them to wait to announce it until the next live letter, which is on April 12th, but because we were like, there's no way they're going to do it during PAX. We were wrong.
We thought it would make better sense for them because it would be a more general large audience.
Right, and it would be, yeah.
But Square Enix doesn't generally do things that make sense, so.
but
this time they did.
They announced it during the PAX thing and everything, and so it's the early access is, if you go ahead and pre-order, is on June 28th, and then actual launch is on July 2nd. Of course, same deal as with other expansions, right? You do the pre-order, you get goodies like a new leveling up earring and a new minion and all of that jazz. If you haven't already bought it, you are not going to get the big shiny box at this point, I don't think.
Well, when we did the relic grind last night, I went on to see you can still add it to cart.
But can you?
That doesn't mean you'll actually get it, right? We have seen Square Enix take orders and then send emails later saying we don't have the stock and your order was canceled. So according to the site, you can still put it in cart as of last night. Although I did get mine day of, and it was an absolute clusterfuck. Go watch the relic grind for more on that.
It was basically the site was being in-walkered during that. Just watching people try to order it. And I know I was sitting in my free company chat just going, if you're not trying to buy the collector's edition, stop trying to buy it.
Wait.
There
were so many issues. It was more than just too many people on the site. There was Square Enix. You feel bad for them being a small indie company, right? They're just so small and indie that they can't get that POS system up.
But yeah, the big box looks nice and everything, and of course they did the weird, if you buy it on console, then you have to buy the collector's box separately, is a different thing.
Yeah, Steam too.
And they also announced the system requirement changes for the new shiny graphics, and it's mostly what it was, except for the processor.
Yep.
Which is kind of hilarious because if you have to update your processor, you're pretty much updating the motherboard and everything.
Right. Yeah. But it's just a processor change. Don't worry. It's not a huge processor change, right? It was like i7 6700 going to i7 7700, something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But there are definitely people that will have to make the change. So
Oh yeah. Did you pre-order one? The chat wants to know, did you get your collector's box and stuff, or are you just getting basic version or what?
I'm gonna get the digital version. I have to wait till I'm paid next anyway. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, I haven't pre-ordered anything as of yet because waiting on payday.
Fair enough. Got to make that money.
Yep.
That's some upcoming stuff for you. A last couple of news hits, and then we'll wrap this up with the bombs for you. You can all relax, right? The Riot League of Legends MMO is still a thing, but after a bunch of leadership and direction changes, they're going to be going dark for a few years. As if they weren't already dark, by the way. It's not like news was Yeah, we're gonna say less than the nothing we've said so far, Troy. So under new leadership, quite frankly, the tail end of this was, or the summation of this was that, as they put it, we had an MMO that we've played before with a Runeterra coat of paint, and that's not what they thought people want. They thought people wanted something that truly feels like a significant evolution of the genre. I went ahead in Q's piece and put a sentence in there in parentheses that says, Magicman seems to think that a familiar feeling Runeterra painted MMO done well was exactly what most of us wanted, but he digresses.
As predicted in my 2024 predictions, Riot remains radio silent.
Yeah. Damn, I totally forgot that was one of your things.
I mean, there was a blip of noise, right? Long enough for them to tell us that the game is still a thing,
Yep.
and that there's new leadership on it, and that they're not going to tell us anything else because they've made a drastic change from what it was, and yeah, they just went back to the drawing board.
What's going on the ArcheAge 2 front? This happened was posted while I was traveling. So, Troy, I'll let you elaborate here.
ArcheAge 2 is not coming in 2024, apparently, according to the income reports from Q4 of 2023 investor report. Apparently, a lot of folks missed this. We weren't the only ones that missed this, but they've got it listed as post 25, which could mean, it still could mean 2025. After the Q1 probably starts at the end of 2025, something like that. But ArcheAge 2 not coming in 2024 for sure. And if I had to guess at this point, it sounds like 2026, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, credit to him massively for eyeballing that one. PAX Day wants you to be a little bit patient. They need a couple extra weeks before they head into their next alpha test. To sort some things out. So they're going to be asking you just, hey, Wilderness Alpha kickoff April 23rd. We just need a little bit of extra weeks. In case you need something to peruse on the PAX Day front in the meantime, we have just posted this morning an article with 2 new videos from the PAX Day team talking about PvP, how it's in the game, how it's going to be in the game later and evolved, and how gathering even comes into the competitive arena. Very interesting thoughts on how that's going to work. Check out that article on MMOBomb.com as we slide over to the weekly bombs. Troy, you're up.
I'm giving my bomb this week to Hexadome Aristia Showdown that we talked about just a few minutes ago.
Gee,
really
I didn't see that coming miles away.
Yeah. Yeah, that thing looks amazing. It's not, I need something to fill the Atlas reactor sized hole in my heart, and this could be it.
I sent the assignment over to Troy before he was online that morning. Was it yesterday, the day before? I don't remember. And it just said, hey, piece 1 is in your email. Yeah, I'm really sure this one is right up your alley. And then later when he saw it, he wrote it up and he replied back to me, did you email them for a key yet? And I was like, no, I did not. And he was like, okay, I'm going to. And I was like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, I've already got it filled out. I just wanted to make sure before I sent it.
Yeah, I sent one over too. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I think it's something our audiences would like here. Go ahead, Q. What do you got?
I'm going to give the bomb to Honkai Star Rail because I hopped back into it yesterday for the first time in a while. And they added this basically quest tracker that's it's like a tree that shows you where all your quests break off and what you have completed. And I'm like, this is so useful. I wish it were in Genshin.
I'm going to give an A-bomb to not hitting it big while I was in Vegas. Hence me doing this podcast today. You never would have seen my butt again. So I'll give a dub-bomb to Jen Glennon resigning from shit. I'm drawing a blank on the site. Kotaku, right?
Kotaku,
yeah. Kotaku.
Yes, Kotaku.
Like It's a Kotaku. I don't know why. Editor-in-chief resigning over the higher-ups wanting to kind of ex-nay on the news stuff and create more and more guides. Now, that's not to say that guides don't have their place in content. They certainly do, but they are substantially harder and longer form things to create if they are done well. If they are done well, being the key there, like, you know, a 10-minute guide on how to do this, that's I'm not talking that stuff when I say guides, but maybe that is what their leadership was talking about. Either way, it doesn't matter. Jen resigning over it because the numbers apparently, according to Jen, they don't support that. That's the traffic point for Kotaku, and that the news is. But yeah, differences of opinion there. So kudos. Like, obviously, we kind of had all of us that do anything online, no matter how big or small, fight those very same similar battles, right? There's always ways that we could make things very, very clickbaity and improve our Google ranks for MMOBomb. But we have avoided doing that for years, sometimes to our detriment. And so it's nice to see, you know, Bree over at Massively is somebody that I admire quite a bit on this particular front too. We've always kind of seen eye to eye on these things for years and years in our private conversations. And Jen, this is tremendous. Dub-bomb to you, my friend. From chat, to Cal says, A-bomb to all the talking heads on YouTube and the like, still hating on live service games. These are some of the most popular games of all time. Stop being parrots for clicks and form an original opinion. Yeah, I don't know. Is there like a string of live service game hate videos going around that maybe isn't getting recommended to me? I'm a sucker for a good live service game that's done well, that I don't feel is beating me up for monetization. Like, I'm a sucker for that stuff. Division 2, I mean, that's Destiny had me by
one that's developed in gameplay first sucks money out of me just by being a good game.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that it isn't a very, very abused category of games too. It absolutely is. We talked about live services a number of weeks ago, so I won't rehash that here. Go watch that episode. From YouTube or MMOBomb.com, someone else, great YouTube name, by the way. Oh, by the way, like, I only had like one or two people answer last week's question of the week, and everybody that I put here in the bombs and viewer questions, they didn't specifically say dub-bomb or A-bomb, but they were giving like a, hey, I like this, or hey, I don't like this thing. But it also seemed like there were lots of people answering questions of the week from like the previous 3 episodes. Like, when you hear some of these, you're going to be like, that was the question of the week like 3 episodes ago. Yes, these were on the most recent episode. Someone else. Online games that I will never uninstall. Anarchy Online. Will never play again. Genshin Impact. Wish would come back. Moo Legend and Dark Blood. I think we talked about that type of topic, like 3 episodes ago? I don't know.
Something like that.
By the way, I appreciate all the comments, so keep them coming. But don't forget to give me weekly bombs. Dub-bomb for something good, A-bomb for something bad. And I'll put the answers in here no matter when you put them. But it helps if I get current question and answer weeks. That just helps a little bit. Go ahead, Q.
Dishwisher, a late, just catching up to my gaming podcast of choice again. Dub-bomb to Troy for giving Here's the Storm a chance and his predictions for 2024, and also slightly smaller dub-bombs for Q and Mike for agreeing with him. The game deserved better than it got, and Microsoft potentially giving it a rejuvenation and a second life is an enticing thought. Edit, by the way, speaking of games that deserved better, I've been wondering if Mike ever played Lightseekers, a somewhat unique CCG that's still hanging in there against all odds.
I meant to look that up after the show because the name sounded very, very familiar. But I can't tell if I have or not. So I'm looking it up right now. Here it is on Steam. I'll look at this. I've definitely seen that logo before. Now, I don't know if it was just from straight coverage or if it's because I actually played it. Come on, give me just a screenshot of the board here. I have played this. Yes. I recognize the 2-bar board system thing that they've got going here. I don't remember the mechanics of this game. I'm going to go and check it out again because I'm a sucker for CCGs and TCGs anyway. Troy, you love him, so come play with me. He ain't playing with me. He ain't playing with
No.
me. And I'll see you next week with some more informed recent opinions on it, because it does look familiar, but it's been way too long. And Troy, enjoy your bomb from the viewer.
Yes. Yes,
Go
I
ahead.
will. Brighter Shores Central says Brighter Shores is going to be amazing. Smiley face.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Somebody, you know what? I mean, I'm sure they've had that YouTube handle for like a decade now, and it just happened to work out all these years later.
Yeah.
Counterpoint from Corey V, though, says Brighter Shores looks like a super generic MMORPG made for mobile. So I think the two of you should have a Lightseekers duel, and whoever wins, Brighter Shores gets to be a good game or a crap mobile game based on the Lightseekers game. Finish it up, Q.
Ryuno, I wonder if those FFXIV players will welcome the difficulty if Yoshi P will make things a little harder. Once they get a taste and used to the easy life, they're not going to like the change. I think that there are plenty of people who will welcome some of the difficulty back, but it also depends on what they're planning on implementing. I think, like, if they decide suddenly to take away our duty supports, there will be some of us that are mad because we don't want to play with other people.
Question of the week last week. One of you answered it. What's the worst part about MMOs, even the ones you love, and how they could be made better? Zach Aurelius says, worst thing in MMOs got to be weekly capped rewards for me. If someone wants to no-life a game, let them be free to make that choice. And Zach's comment, like, there was a whole discussion on this topic afterwards. So Zach wasn't the only person to talk about the question of the week answer, but it was all part of this conversation. I am totally in agreement with you on this one. I hate weekly tombstone caps in Final Fantasy still. I hate caps of any type. Stop it.
I mean, my beef right now is the crafter scripts.
Yeah.
From
and I mean, I from a design perspective, multiple people said this in reply to Zach. Like, it's a way to gate, how fast you can go through stuff, because some games, a lot of games, are hiding how little there actually may be to do using those types of gates. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I don't have to like it. Question of the week this week. I'm going to ask you the primary question, but I'll give you a secondary one if you didn't care about this one. Will the League of Legends MMO ever actually see the light of day? Or will it be canceled or turned into a new project? I don't want you to say, yeah, it'll see the light of day, but it'll be an Overwatch shooter, kind of like Titan went into cancellation and became Overwatch. No. One or the other. Will the MMORPG see the light of day as an MMORPG, or will it be canceled or turned into a new project? Let me know what you think and why in the comments below. If you don't care about the League of Legends MMO at all, let me know your feelings on the Guild Wars 3 stuff. And do you think it's time for one, or do we still have many, many more years of Guild Wars 2 to go before that happens? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget your weekly bombs, dub bomb for something good, a bomb for something bad in the world of gaming, or just life in general. If you've got a question for the panel, throw it down there and I'll bring it to the show. Troy, until next time, where can everybody find you?
Hey, twitch.tv/noobfridge if you want to watch me stream some games.
Cute.
Miscreation on Blue Sky.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at magicman1, but more importantly, follow at MMOBomb so you'll know every time we're going live with a podcast, new video, interview, articles, giveaways, first look videos, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you on the servers. Later. Clear of the